Welcome to a parallel project training APM project management qualification podcast based on the APM Body of Knowledge 6th edition. You should be using this in conjunction with our e-learning, study guide and potentially a tutor-led course. For more information, please visit www.parallelprojecttraining.com.
Hello, welcome to another Parallel Project Training podcast. Hello, John.
Hello.
John Bolton's with me.
Hello,
and
everybody.
I'm Paul Neighbour, and we're up to the project management plan. So the assessment criteria here are, John.
Explain the purpose of the project management plan and its importance throughout the life cycle. Describe the contents of it and outline the authorship, approval and audience for it.
This is quite easy. So
it is.
The purpose. Why do we need a project management plan?
It makes you think about what you're going to do before you do it.
Yes.
It describes how you're going to run the project.
It's quite funny. We were talking about this in one of our online sessions, and I said, what's the purpose of a project management plan? And one guy said, the purpose of a project management plan is to plan the management of the project. You go, well, that's not wrong.
It's like work breakdown structure. It's a structured way of breaking down the work.
Right.
So anyway, it makes you think about what you're going to do before you do it. It lays down all the procedures you're going to follow to run the project.
Establishes your baselines.
It establishes all the baselines, and it describes kind of some of the success criteria and some of the static data about the project. So it describes things like success criteria. It's got the Gantt chart in it. It's got your risk management process in it, and all the plans that you talked about, like communication plan, and all that, they all go in the PMP. So the PMP might be one great big document with all of those things in it, or it might just be a little list of where all those documents are. So it doesn't have to be one big document. Quite often, in fact, it's not. It's
a reference to a number of the documents.
They're all scattered around everywhere else. So
it's a communication aid too.
That's right. That's right. We used to, when someone joined the project, used to throw the project management plan at them for a couple of hours and then ask them questions about it to make sure.
Does it describe why we're doing the project?
Well, I think you and I disagree about this.
I know, that's why.
Because I just don't think you should write things down twice.
Yes. Because
if you do, there's always a danger they come out of sync, you know? And also you're wasting your time. If the why is in the business case, I think in the project management plan, you just say, well, that's all written in the business case, go read the business case.
Okay.
So I don't think it's a particular issue. I mean, if you want to put it in the PMP, put it in the PMP.
Usually a bit of an introduction. Or
6079 has got the business case in the project management plan.
Yeah.
But then it doesn't have a separate business case.
I think you're right. You don't want to just cut and paste.
There's no point.
From one to the other. There's no point. But I think it's sometimes worth having a little introduction saying what we're trying to achieve with this project is. Yeah. It depends. I mean, it depends if you have got access to the business case. Because in some organisations...
but you usually have a business case, an executive summary, don't you?
Yes, that's right.
So maybe, let's compromise. Maybe, or let's collaborate. Maybe an executive summary in the project management plan.
Saying, just setting the background,
that's right.
the context a bit.
I think the danger is that you see in a business case things like success criteria and assumptions.
Oh, and all that stuff. The two get really muddled up.
That's right. And you think, well, is that a business case assumption?
Or is that... Yes.
To me, the business case is about the business and the operations, and it's about strategy, and it's setting the scene.
Yes.
The business, commercial context of why you're doing the project.
That's right.
The project management plan is simply a
tactical document,
a tactical manifestation of what you're going to do. And it has a different audience. It has a different because the project management plan. Okay, I mean the sponsor has to see it and sign it off, and the project manager usually writes it or oversees the writing of it. But it's for the team and it's for the customer and it's for everybody. There should be no secrets in it, really, because the more people understand about what you're trying to do, the better off everyone will be. And so it's not something you hide in the drawer and pretend, it belongs to the project manager, therefore nobody else can see
document.
It's mine and I'll change it if I want to.
Very good.
Good. So, I mean, that's it in a nutshell. And the contents of it, really, I think...
So we've got two models of the contents.
We have now.
Really. We've sort of evolved two models of the contents. One is straight out of the the 5th edition of the APM Body of Knowledge, isn't it? The why, what, where, when, how much, and
yeah. I'm not really wedded to that because I think that's a bit. Yeah,
it's the 6 wise men. It's not the contents. It's what you're trying to achieve with the.
Yeah, I wouldn't put the why in it. I think it's just someone said that without really thinking about
In a committee when they were drafting the body of knowledge.
Someone said that without really thinking about the consequences of what that means.
Yes.
You know, if you reserve words, you reserve the why for the business case, and the what and the how and the when and the who is the project management plan. So between them, they cover all the bases.
Yes.
Why have two separate documents? Well, because they evolve at different speeds. They're owned by different people. They have a different audience. Generally, because the business case, you haven't got people on the project when the business case gets signed off. And if the business case never changes, it never needs to be updated. But I think you keep them separate because you have to introduce a little bit of challenge and conflict between the sponsor and the project manager, because someone has to keep the project manager honest.
So we've sort of evolved a different model.
We have.
Which has got two parts. Well, I think we're not allowed to make things up on the fly, are we? But I think there's actually three parts. There's a little bit of in a PMP. There's a little bit of an introduction, a static bit. It says this is the success criteria for the project.
Yeah, I
this
agree
is
with
the
that.
background. This is the context.
Yeah.
And then
Shall I change the book then?
Yeah, we could do.
I'll put that. I'll just make a note. Hang on. Paul's section goes in here.
Yes.
Static. I agree with you, actually.
Just a little, not big, just a...
That's in there goes the success criteria, that kind of the scope statement.
Yes.
A bit of background, sort of...
context, a bit about the
context, maybe success criteria if you want them.
Yes, and any success
factors rather.
maybe.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Sorry, factors. So yes, there is some sort of static stuff, and also any contextual stuff that's interesting. So
we have to comply with.
I mean, some of that. I mean, the reason you put the success criteria in the PMP is because they're not the same success criteria as going in the business case. They're success criteria for the project rather than success criteria for the business. So the business case contains the success criteria for the business, which are the benefits.
Yes, okay. You were confusing me for 30 seconds.
Yes. So I could tell. But you don't put your success criteria as the wrong phrase to use for a business case.
Correct.
You should use benefits in a business case and success criteria for the project. So that's another reason why I don't think they really sit well together in the way they're described. But anyway, I'll put that in. Okay.
Fantastic.
So page whatever that is.
So then the other part is what we call policies and procedures, really.
Yeah, they've come up with a new name for this, haven't they?
They probably have, but
no, they have frameworks.
Frameworks
in that stupid sample paper that they've just
put. This is going out to thousands of people. Probably.
Oops.
Our friends at Ibis House will be
listening. Scratch that. The APM have published a
very good sample,
a perfectly constructed sample paper, but they've invented a new word,
frameworks.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
But these are all the plans: health and safety plan, quality plan.
That's right.
You can play a game. How many plans can you name?
Yes. How many?
Loads.
Christmas.
Yes. No. Yes. You go around the room, see how many plans we can do.
Yes.
But there's loads of them.
Well, then you have processes.
Yes.
And then you have procedures.
Yes.
And policies.
Yes. And also doing some process,
and
policy and procedure. You don't need to know.
No, don't bother. Yeah. Yes. It would be really nice if they normalised it all.
Actually, they only want to...
So if they said that you have a project management plan, and in the project management plan you have processes.
Yes.
And you have a stakeholder management process, you have a risk management process, you have a nice and simple.
Consistent.
Nice and consistent.
You like consistency.
So everything...
I was just going to chuck on inconsistency, because the procurement strategy, we talked about that earlier.
Yeah, I think that's the odd man out.
That's a real plan.
Yeah. Well, no, that's a strategy.
Yes.
And that strategy comes... If you think of the project management plan as being the tactics...
Yes.
You think of the sort of business case as being the mission...
Yes.
Then you need a strategic plan that sits between the two. And that's what the procurement strategy is.
Yes.
So, if you're at war, you agree your strategy and then you agree your tactics.
Yes.
So you agree your strategy for procurement and then you go and execute the plan. And the plan is affected as a consequence of your strategy.
That's right.
If you want to go and buy everything in, you don't need to worry about work breakdown structures and... organisation, all that stuff. Well, some of it you do, but some of it you don't.
So going back to methods, so these are quite often documents that you have a template for.
Yes.
That you then fill in, basically, for your project. A quality management plan, for instance, there'll be in your method, you'll have a template quality management plan that you then fill in the blanks.
We have set headings, yeah.
Yeah, set headings.
But I mean, you might even have a complete plan.
Yes.
If you've got a well-developed... if you're a sophisticated project organisation,
yes,
you probably got a risk management process already defined for you.
Yes.
So you're not going to go write another one.
Yes, and that's what confuses
yours.
People quite often. Yeah. Because there might be a risk management plan for the whole organisation that you just say, well, this is how we do.
We'll just follow that plan. Sections 1 to 7, 8 to 13, and 42 or something. So you just decide which bits. Make sure it's there, though. I referenced a configuration management plan once, and then the customer asked to see it, and it wasn't. So I ended up having to write it over a weekend. Writing it's easy. Getting it agreed is something completely different. So
Yes.
make sure it's there. And if also the other thing I've got to be careful of is if you reference other documents. If the auditor comes round, they're going to say, well, can you show me how you manage risks? And you go, well, we do it according to the corporate procedure.
And it
They're
doesn't
then going to
exist.
expect you to follow it.
Yes. Yes.
So there's only one thing worse than not having procedures, that's having them and not following them.
Yes.
Because people are going to assume you're following them.
Yes.
So the auditor will pull you up on that because they'll say, well, you said in this document, you haven't written your own procedure. You said you were referring to that one. And you do tend to find, and I've done audits, you do tend to find that people are not following them at all.
Yeah.
In fact, or they may not even exist.
The other thing about these is they tend to be reasonably static for the project. So your quality plan, you write it at the beginning, and it's not
really susceptible to change.
it's not really it's not something you update every month.
No.
It's not a living document.
No.
You should review it
Yeah,
clearly,
that's right.
but it's something that's
But there is the
fairly-
truth of...
it's the operating procedure.
Yeah.
So you don't change your operating procedure month on month.
But the truth is that if you've done something and it didn't work, like, if you followed, I don't know, a resource management procedure or something,
Yes.
and it didn't work, and don't keep following it, go back and change it.
That's lessons learned. We talked
Yeah,
about
that's
that
right,
earlier.
yeah,
That's one of the
yeah.
ways of improving your lessons learned
That's right.
capturing is updating these documents to
Yeah,
to
because the other
refine
thing you find
process.
as auditors is you go along and they say, well, where's your plan? That's all it's here, but don't worry about it because we're not following it. Well, what's the point of having it? It's supposed to be represent. And people say, well, why do I need it? I'm just writing down what we do anyway. Well, that's fine, but it's consistency, isn't it? Is you can give it to anybody, they know where they fit in, and if you don't turn up the next week, then someone knows where to pick it up from. It is a control document. It's configuration management controlled.
Yes.
And it should be right. It should be up to date and everything else. But sometimes project management plan is 2 or 3 sides of paper. And that's all you need. Main roles and responsibilities, main products. Sometimes it's sort of 4 shelves full.
So let's move on. So the other part that we have identified are the schedules and plans.
Yes.
So these are a collection of baseline documents,
Yes.
the budget, the schedule, and the scope, plus sort of other logs that support that, subsidiary documents that support, like the risk register and the issue log. And these are more dynamic documents, aren't they? And they're not even they might not even be documents. They're more information and data.
Yes, that's right. They're more fluid.
Yes.
They're volatile, so they'll change.
So your plan, your bar chart might exist in Microsoft Project, in your risk register, in your risk database, but it's still part of the PMP. It's part of your project control system.
That's right. But people get confused because the left-hand side of the diagram shows all the policies and procedures.
Yes.
And in a way, if you've got similar projects running regularly, then there's no reason why you can't have a preset project management plan
Yes,
with
those
everything
quite
in it.
often fade into background, don't they?
That's right.
'Cause-
And it's just, so in a way, the left-hand side is this could apply to any old project
Yes.
in this environment.
Yes.
The right-hand side is this is my project.
Yes, and I think quite often that those policies and procedures, if you were setting a new project up in a new organisation, that you'd have to sit down and work all those out. But most of us aren't doing that. Most of us are delivering projects in organisations that have already got these things. Even if they're not written down, they exist. Good. So these are the sort of things that are dynamic. So the communications, stakeholder analysis is an interesting one. Communications plan, actually, because that's, we talked about that being an Excel spreadsheet with who we're going to communicate and how and when and what the status is. So that's actually, I know it's a communications plan, but it's actually more of a schedule, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
something that you update and use. So these are the things these are your tools that you use
That's right.
to manage your project day to day. Good. And then it develops through the life cycle. So it starts off, here's a good quiz question. When does the PMP start? When's the first?
Well, okay. So how it depends, doesn't it? Because if when you're writing the business case, is writing the business case a project?
Yes, could
or
be.
is it part of a project?
Could be.
So if it's its own project, you need a project management plan to write the business case.
Correct.
Therefore, you need a business case to write the business case, which
Yes.
means that business case is then a project. So that needs a plan. And yes,
Yes.
down that way lies madness completely.
Well,
You need enough of a project management plan to control what you're doing while you're doing it.
correct.
And you need a framework for a sort of skeleton one during the business case construction, because you will need to, even if all it is just, project manager's terms of reference to write a business case or something. You're spending money, someone has to approve it. So I don't see any reason why you can't just have a skeleton framework at the start and then slowly develop it.
That's right.
And then at the end of definition, or whatever they've called it this week, it gets signed off as a project management plan by the sponsor, and then Bob's your uncle. Really, arguably, it's only at that point you really get a project, because that's the real sort of
That sign off is what they
that's
call
the real kickoff.
baseline.
That's the baselining.
Baselining the cost, time,
That's right.
scope, requirements.
So thereafter, kind of off you go, fill
Yes.
your boots.
That's right. And that goes back to information management and the meetings that you have,
That's
then measuring your progress against those agreed baselines.
That's right. So the plan, but I think all of these, people think of this PMP as just a great big document, and it's not. It really isn't, because all of these schedules just live somewhere else.
Yes.
And you just say, well, our configuration library is managed by the configuration librarian, and
Okay.
this is
So
what
you
they
don't
do.
see that you need to sort of print out a PDF version of the schedule and bind in the risk register and
No, you might want to, but you just say that this is my change control log is in this library, in the configuration library. In the configuration library, you simply have a management product section, and you have a folder with change control logs in it, a folder with risk logs in it, a folder with issue logs in it, and you just say, if you want to go to see the latest issue log, it's in there.
Oh, very good. Yeah.
So you don't need to keep printing them out, and
Horses for courses
people.
too.
Yeah, that's right. I mean,
You need.
so that's right. I mean, if you're on you're out on site, you might want to take some stuff with you, and there's nothing wrong with that. The danger is, of course, it all gets. You give a copy of the plan this week to somebody, and it's not the same as the plan that they should have next week, sort of thing. So
Good. Well, I think it's a nice little topic for the exam, really. I mean,
I'm quite I'm on record as saying I can't understand why the PMP has taken such a low profile in the new body of knowledge, really. Because
Yes.
I think without
mistake.
you might think that I couldn't possibly comment, but I think it's you can't run a project without one,
No.
and people look on it and they just say, oh, it's bureaucracy. Why am I writing down what's blatantly obvious? Well, it might be blatantly obvious to you, but it's not blatantly obvious to everybody else. And it's amazing the amount of questions you get when you could put something on someone's nose and say, well, this is what we do, and they go, well, it's not quite what we're doing. And I'd rather have the discussion before you start rather than at the end.
So questions in the exam might be describe the main components of a project management plan.
Yeah.
Describe 5 policies. Describe 5 schedules
Or frameworks.
or
I've just noticed we're sort of revising the study guide as we're going here, actually.
why?
Well, because I've just realised that it doesn't say frameworks in here. It really
It
ought
will
to.
do by its plan.
It will do by the time.
By the time you see
Yeah,
it,
so watch out, folks.
by the time you see it, listeners, it will say
Yeah.
frameworks.
What's
in there,
currently on page 147, which isn't 147 now.
which
anyway,
won't
but
be 147
no,
by the
no.
time you see it. Which is
No.
why we're avoiding page numbers, because
Yes, that's right.
we've discovered that
Yes.
if you refer to page numbers when you update the book, they
It all
change
becomes a little
as
bit
part of
fluid.
configuration management.
I do. I mean, I want to emphasise this because this confuses the life out of people. Is the term policy, procedure, process, and framework are used interchangeably,
Yes.
and in a way, so a plan.
Plan you have to be very careful about, because you
Yeah.
have a quality plan, but the plan might also be the bar chart.
Yes, that's right. Well, I reserve. Yeah, I mean, if you look
So
at
you call them
if you look at a
schedules.
Gantt chart, I call them a schedule. see.
Schedule, yes.
So you avoid that because a lot of people say, "Have you got the plan?" I told you a story about our architect, didn't I?
No.
I sent him an email and said, "Can I have a copy of the plan?" Meaning the Gantt chart.
They do it.
And then about a week later, the doorbell rings and this great big parcel arrives, and it's got a
the
complete
plans.
copy of all the plans
All
of the
drawings,
building. And
yes.
so I phoned Tony out. I said, "What's all this?" And he goes, "We asked for a copy of the plan." I said, "Yeah, no, I wanted the schedule. I
Yes.
wanted the Gantt chart when things. Oh, you mean the schedule? You mean the program?" A lot of construction people
Call the bar chart.
and engineering
program.
people call the schedule the program of work.
Yes.
And I think it's a perfectly logical title, but for the purposes of the exam, you'll
Gonna
get
get you in
confused
deep
between
water.
that and program management, right? So just avoid it. right? Just avoid the term program. Just turn your head off to that for the purposes of the exam.
Yes.
Program's a program management term. Schedule or Gantt chart is fine for the plan.
I see that all the time when I'm moderating the forum.
Yes.
All the time.
Yes.
Especially when they say the benefits of program management,
Yes.
and people get confused and stop at the benefits of planning.
I think, to be honest, I think the examiners are fairly wise to it, because I think they probably do that conversion.
No, well, I think you're right. I think if you're answering a question and you slip in the word
program instead of
schedule, you get away with it. But if you say the benefits of program management, you give the benefits of planning.
Yes, that's right.
You're going to get lost.
Yeah.
Zero marks.
Nil point. Yeah.
Yes, which
Anyway.
I've seen a few times.
Happy days.
Good, excellent. Thank you, John.
Cheers.
We hope you enjoyed this podcast and found it informative. To order a study guide, e-learning, or a tutor-led course to go with this podcast, please visit www.parallelprojecttraining.com.